Hello, in this video, I'm going to discuss ways that you can use Chartsmart Global in a very important and useful way. And so I'm going to start it now, going into the program. And you can see there's a chart of IBM, and you can see on the bottom I have the fundamentals lines being displayed. And what I'm going to do is just go right in and run a screen so you can just see how this is done. And the first thing I'm going to do is look at stocks in Canada on the TSX 300 Composite. So I'm going to go to the filter menu, and you can see that there's our sample filter groups, which are beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And what I'm going to do is take a blank area, another group, and start a new filter set. So we'll add a new filter set, and we'll just call it TSX Dividend stocks. We'll start with this one, okay? Now, um, we'll go to criteria to be used, and we can choose the exchange, which would be Toronto. But what I'm going to do is go over to um, the index tab here, and in here we have some pre-made um, group. The stocks that are components of various indices. For example, these ones are the ones that make up the TSX Composite, about 250 of them. These ones would be down here, ones that make up the juniors in tier one of the Canadian stocks. But let's look at this one. This is probably the more um, blue chip type stocks. And what we'll do is we're just going to do a simple screen and see what we get, just to see what there are. So out of 33,000 in the database in Canada and the US, we get 223. So you can see the list there. There's Air Canada, America, Barrick Gold, and Algoma Steel, names that you're familiar with. We could sort the filtered list before looking at it, but what I'm going to do is go into more detail. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the criteria, and we're going to actually look for dividend stocks. So let's go to the fundamentals and just specify that we want a dividend yield, for example, of over 5%. That's the number we're going to put in here. Okay, so their dividend um, uh, yield based on the dividend being paid based on their price of their stock is yielding at least 5%. So you might be saying, hey, I just want to look at TSX composite stocks that are giving me a good dividend. So let's go ahead and see how many out of those 223 are ones that are over 5%. And there you go. You can see in the top, it's 34. Now, before I actually look at these, I'm actually going to do a sort of this list on the dividend that they pay, and I'm going to do it in descending order so that I get the highest yielding ones first. Okay, so we're going to get 34 again, but the highest ones are going to be first. And you can see in the right-hand column, there's the dividend yield. So now we can go look at the charts. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And before I go begin scrolling, I'm actually going to make a watch list. Okay, and I'm going to make a new watch list called Dividend Stocks in Canada. So you can start to see how Chartsmart can be used here. So this is where we're going to collect the ones that we might like. So let's go ahead and start scrolling through those 34 companies. Okay, so here we can see one called CareX Resources. And if you look at the top left, we've got it set to show the dividend yield. And this is going to be the highest dividend yield out of the TSX 300 at this current time, which is 11.6%. And how do we get that? Well, if we click the PD5, you can see that the dividend per share is $1.50. And you take that and divide it by the price of the stock, which is around 12 bucks. And that's how you get your dividend yield of 11.6%. Now, what's been happening here, if you look at the blue line, that's the growth in the dividends. So they probably started in 2021. You can see how quickly this allows you to see what's going on. You can see the dividend has just started, and we can even see the actual numbers starting at 2021 because you can see the dividend per share was 0 back in 2021, 2020, and this is when it started to go up. So the question is this dividend going to stay? And The yield is obviously high because the price dropped a lot, but we can also see the revenue line, the black line, is showing pretty steady and quite high. The earnings, the red line, have come down a little bit, but the PE ratio is still very low. That's the magenta line. Their cash is low, the yellow line. It's gone down from 2023. So you can see how quickly you can see what's going on. So let's say, hey, I like that one. So I'm going to go to ZWatch and add this displayed chart to my list. Okay, now I can go forward. I'm just going to click the F button, and I can look at the next one. And you can see the dividend yield is 10.8%. You can see it was pretty flat, the blue line in the bottom. And then they started, I guess they had some pretty good earnings in 2022. They raised the dividend, and it's been up. They lowered it a bit, and the stock's come down, hence the yield is quite high. So we might be saying, hey, this one looks pretty cheap. The yields, the dividend looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and add this to our list. Okay, so we're building our list of stocks, and we'll go to another one. Here's a $7 one that's come down to levels. You can see in COVID 2020, it dropped down as low as $6, and it's nearly that low now. Superior Plus, I don't know what they are doing. If we wanted to look, we could go to the globe icon, and it'll bring us to the Yahoo company profile, and we can see all about this company. Okay, where they are and the description. It's some kind of propane and various things. So you can see it's all at your fingertips here. And then we can say, well, do I want to look at this? Okay, the revenues have been coming up, that black line in the bottom. The earnings are basically even. They're breaking even, the red line. And the dividend hasn't changed. It's been pretty steady over the last 10 years. So we might expect that dividend to stay. You might do a little research on that, but let's say we might like to consider that one as well. Okay. And so we can continue to go through our list. Here's one, this Northwest Healthcare, where you can see the blue line. The stock's been dropping since 2022 from $14 to $5, and that's probably why they dropped the dividend. The blue line, it's probably gone down to zero. Where's the dividend? It hasn't gone to zero, but it's gone from 80 cents to 47 cents. So they've reduced their dividend, but their yield is still quite high at 8.87% because the price of the stock's still down. And the revenues, the black line, is still pretty high. The only problem here is the red line, which you can see they're losing money now. And that's what we can see over here. They were green in earnings per share, now they're red. So that's a little more concerning. That's why the stock's down, I guess. So we might leave that one. Okay, so now you're getting the picture of how to use this thing in this case. Now, we're looking at dividends. You could say, I also want ones where the earnings are going up. And that way you would, for example, looking at this one where the red line is going down, you could actually specify, well, I want the earnings to be going up in the last 3 years, and then it would exclude this. And you could add that to your screen. We might leave that for another video. So you can see the blue line, they've been raising the dividend pretty regularly, even though the price has come down. Again, this one has negative earnings. It's gone negative recently, so you might be hesitant, but who knows what to expect here. Their revenues are holding pretty good, the black line. So you can see how I can interpret a lot of what's going on through this fundamentals feature that's unique Chartsmart and Chartsmart Global. If we want to get a little more history on this chart, we can go back to go here and look at a little more data. You can see that we have the fundamentals going back. It actually goes back about 40 years, but in this case, the chart's only displaying 20 years. And we will be having the full technical data going back a lot further for these companies as we continue through the beta development of Chartsmart Global. And the regular Chartsmart only has about 10 years of data, which is one of its limitations, one of the reasons for Chartsmart Global. And we'll do one more just to finish up this video. And you can see here's one where the price of the stock had gone from $5 up to 15 in 2021. You can see the earnings went up to the red line and the sales, the black line, and they raised their dividend. Now, it's peaked in 2023. The revenues come down. The earnings have come down a bit. The PE ratio is still about 10, I guess, here, the magenta line. And they're still paying a pretty high dividend, which is 8.67%. So, what you might want to do is say, look through TSX comp stocks that are ones that are showing the dividends that you'd like to see, and look at ones where the price looks like maybe it's low, and so you earn the dividend, plus you might see some appreciation in the price of the stock as well. So there you go. That's one example of using Chartsmart Global for a very important application, and it makes it very simple for you. You'd probably have a lot of trouble finding any other investment tools that would do this job for you as well. Thank you.